So we have a really interesting topic of light it up, light bulbs, but I've gone for ones that are clear, pretty much because we get this fabulous, the light reflections on it. So that's one of the things we're going to think about. Also, it's really helpful if we, to think about this in terms of other things that are light reflective, like the bubbles, vases, glasses. So any of that kind of work as well really kind of lends itself well to this. So it's really a helpful one to do because it transfers a lot of the skills and things transfer to doing those. The nice thing about this is we're going to have a go in pencil. So I've got graphite pencils, and I've also got some charcoal. Sorry, I'll just take that and pack. It's a bit noisy, isn't it? So pretty much when we're using pencils, I tend to just go for anything that is some of the numbers that are a little bit apart. So I'll just show you on this little bit of paper here. So I mean, so anything that's in the B range is softer, and anything that's in the H range is harder. So if it's a H something, it's a harder, so it's lighter. If it's a B in the B range, it's darker. So this is a really high number B. So that's 14B. It's really dark and it's really soft. That's why it's so dark. And we can use these pencils. I can even use that in two ways. I can use it with pressure and without pressure. So you can get quite a good amount of scale just with one pencil. If you want to, you could go a bit lighter and a bit lighter and just use one. So that's really high up the softness scale. That's why I've got that one, because they're unusual. And then I'm not going to choose a 13, a 12, 11, or a 10. I'm going to try and leave a gap between them. So at least we're just, we've got something that's a bit different. So this is a 4B. So it's still soft. And you can see there's a slightly different tone to that. So this is a 4B. Now you could use an 8B or whatever if you wanted to, but I'm just going to kind of just get a bit of distance between it. So I've used that. That's a bit lighter as well. So I'll use it lightly. But they're still soft. We've got typically a very ordinary pencil. So you can see this is getting lighter. It's getting harder. This is a HB. And the HB typically is used for writing with and sketching lightly, because we don't get we don't get any much smudging with it, but it's bright enough, it's soft enough with that B bit in there to be able to actually see it as well. So when we're going further down, and if we keep going down to H, so 1H, 2H, 3H, again, if we want to go up to 10H, it'll be really light. But I'm just going to use I haven't got a H with me today. I'm just going to use my HB really lightly, look, and I'll get almost the same as a H something. So I'm only going to use 3 pencils. And the reason I'm doing that is it can be incredibly complicated and confusing if you've got all these pencils and you think, which one did I use for what? But what I do is a little scale like this, just so I can kind of go, right, when I'm trying to work out those colours in between, so that's a lot of it, is working out, what's that middle colour there? What would I do? If I imagine that colour as a grey, I can work out on this scale by looking back at it what it is, rather than having to keep picking my pencils up every 2 minutes and sketching it again, because we do forget, we do forget. So that's why I've got those 3. I've also got some piece of willow stick charcoal. Now, obviously the charcoal comes in charcoal pencils as well. It's just kept in a stick. They come in, the willow is just like basically, that's what it is. It's burnt willow. That's all we'll get charcoal, and it comes in different shapes. So some of them are square, some of them are very thin, some of them are thicker. You can get really big. In fact, you can get them like this thick, an inch thick now. So they're really interesting if you're doing a big area and you want to cover somewhere. Charcoal is incredibly soft. I'm going to use it alongside my pencils as a base. So I'm using just ordinary sketch pad paper for this, because what I want to do is lots of sketches, or a couple. If we were trying to do a couple of sketches or whatever, I could do that. But I'm going to show you something that you might not have done before, which is a bit new. So I've got this willow. I'm going to use that, pop it there, and we're going to reinvent what rubbers, or people call them erasers now. A lot of, when we're doing art, but I still call it a rubber. We're going to reinvent what that's for, because I know it used to be a long time ago, people had to rub out what they'd done and they lost their confidence with their drawing. We're going to reinvent that now, and we're not going to use rubbers rubbing out. We're going to use it for, I'm just cleaning this. So that's what we will need to do, is to clean it up a little bit. So all you have to do is rub it backwards and forwards on a piece of paper. So I've got several erasers. We're going to use the erasers to actually create the light in an object. So I'll go into that in a bit. So actually, it's a very important tool for putting the light back into something that we've already shaded. So it's like a bit of reverse, but it's fabulous. You get really good effects. So when you're doing it, you'll work out what kind of a rubber you want. I've got this one, which takes a bigger chunk out. I can use it on its side, or I can use it like that across, so it's wider. I've got a pencil rubber eraser, where it's got like this bit is rubbery in the middle. That's for like taking out smaller details. And I've just got an ordinary one on the end of a pencil. So those are the ones that go into it. I know you can use the putty rubbers and everything. I think with something like this, because there's some very clear, sharp shapes, it comes out a little bit easier with a more solid rubber. But you can try it. There's nothing wrong with trying the putty rubber, because that actually gives you an idea of what you want and what you don't want to use. So yes, we've got a few tools in there. The biggest thing I would say about the session is, this is where it's vital, actually, with sketching, that we only kind of adjust our eye-hand coordination and through actually doing and making those marks. Because so what we kind of didn't understand, I think, many years ago, when we were only allowed to do one thing, and then we had to stick with that, is that actually it's all right to just continually evolve with it. And unless you're making the marks and you're creating that memory muscle where your brain says, no, I need to shift that in a bit next time, or whatever, it's very difficult to do that if you've only got one thing and you're kind of rubbing out. So it's great if you've got two or three wonky ones, that's fine, because each time you're doing it's part of your journey of evolving with sketching. So I genuinely think, and fine if you want to kind of get really in and you want to do it, that's fine. I just think things have changed, in that we understand how people learn a lot more now, and we understand that actually it's crucial to practice. Like if we were running or cycling or whatever, we wouldn't just expect to get on it and do it all in one go. We kind of keep getting back on and we keep practicing. If we fall off or we get tired or whatever, we adjust, don't we? So this is exactly the same thing. It's just that we've unlearned as adults how to just be confident with the mistakes that we make and go, yeah, I can see where I need to change. So what I think this is a great opportunity for is a chance to have a few goes, and to just, because really that's the start of making it part of your journey with sketching, that actually not everything needs to be perfect. I'm just going to keep, the more I practice doing little bits of things like this all the time, the more the better my eye-hand coordination will be, and my observation skills as well. So that's that really. So it's kind of just, what I'm saying is, we're going to go for it tonight and just really be experimental. So I'm going in on an ordinary piece of paper. So this, obviously, now it will come off a little bit because I'm not on a really like textured piece of paper or anything. Charcoal will stick a little bit better on something a bit more textured. However, it doesn't mean we can't use it. So I'm going in and I'm going to pop in just a base, first of all. I'm not going in too dark. So charcoal, it's all about control. If you've got a penciler, you can try this. Just on the side of your pencil, holding that, And you know, you can actually go in circular motions if you don't want texture. I'm going to rub this charcoal in, by the way. So at the moment, let's see, look, I'm just smudging it. So I'm kind of trying to go to like a bit of a mid colour. Base, because I want it to come through the back of the light bulb, and this is something we're not used to doing. And do it with pencil though. So we don't want it too dark, but we want it dark enough so that we can see our light shining through. And all of this is good practice, whether you're doing it with a pencil or whether you're doing it with a bit of charcoal. And also you can experiment with how dark that background is. You know, what happens if you go really dark, what doesn't. So I'm just covering all of it, but you don't have to, you can just cover a bit of it. This will just help me show you what I'm talking about, like how we can get some of these little techniques in to remove the light. I might go just a little bit, a tad darker on here. All I'm doing is preparing the base, really. And depending on your paper, you'll get a different effect to me. So that's interesting as well. Right, there we go. Okay. Oops, so you see I'm lifting it a little bit there now. So I'm just going to dry off my finger. And also, depending on what side of the paper you've got as well, you might get different effects. I'm just looking at that. Yeah, I thought so. So I think I'm on the non-textured bit there on the other side, on that paper I've just got. And this side's got texture, so obviously our paper's got two sides. So which side we put it on will give us a different effect as well. So I'm just going to prepare another one actually while I'm doing it. But I just like the flexibility that charcoal can give us, just in terms of getting stuff down actually quite quickly. So it really does help us with those quick sketches as well. We don't get too caught up on things quite as much when we do that. There we go. I've got two surfaces there anyway. So, you know, you can just go with whichever one. This one at the back looks a little bit marked. So I'm just going to pop that in there actually. Right. So I'm just going to dry my fingers off. So pretty much when you've got like I've just gone in with a medium, but again, you can experiment with this further down the line. I'm going to move my charcoal because the one thing about charcoal is if it does fall on the floor, make sure you pick it up because it just splinters into 1,000 pieces under your feet and it'll be all around the carpets in no time. So it is one of those things. So I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go over with my slightly darker pencil because I can see there is a line there. And again, you know, if you're not sure about the sketching, like, you know, getting it kind of straighter, you can use a grid, of course you can. I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to go freehand and do plenty of, you know, lots of little ones. I'll go back to that one actually, and I've got that one there. So I'm not going to worry if I don't get this perfectly angular. I'm just going to have a practice freehand and use it, as I said, tonight as an opportunity to exercise that memory muscle. So I know it's leaning a little bit. What I might do is just put like whereabouts it kind of comes to that, where that is. So I'm going in with my 14B at the minute just to kind of get some, but you can go in nice and lightly as well. I've gone in darker so you can see it. So now I'm looking at, you know, how big this comes up here. And what you can do as well, you can always put, if you want to just help yourself a little bit, it's like you can almost do, I can't put it too dark or it won't go on mine. Is you can pop a little line down the middle and draw one side of the bulb down one side and the other side on the other, if that helps you. And again, you can observe like how far out it comes, where the widest point is, and then it starts to come back in. So I'm just looking at those, you know, they can start to pop little bits in. I'm just like sketching it like lightly. Again, it's like just thinking, do I want a photograph or not? And I'd say not, because it's your artist representation. So we're not looking for anything that's photographic as such, because otherwise we won't be able to see what your style is in there. So I'm going out here. And if we get one side, then often we can kind of replicate that on the other one. So there we go. I'm not, as you can see, not spending hours, you know, perfecting that, rubbing it out, etc. I'm just kind of following the line around, and you know what? If there's little things I need to change, I will change them next time. I can see that's coming out already, so I'm just going to add that on a little bit there. And then bring this around the other side in a similar way. So I'm just like using the other side to help me a little bit, because obviously it's fairly symmetrical, isn't it? But again, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you get a wonky one. If you unlearn taking a chance, you know, if you unlearn the fear of mistake making, you've moved fast forwards far faster than any other, using any other thing, to be fair, because that's the only thing that limits us, is the worry about whether it looks right as such. So there you go. So I'm going in with that. So so there's the bayonet bit at the bottom, and there's so much to observe. I mean, you can put the thumb in if you want to, or you can just leave the bayonet at the bottom. But again, it's, you know, it's choice. So I'm just bringing in where that comes round, kind of following the curve a bit. It's really interesting shape, isn't it, at the bottom? So I'm going to put the thumb in this time. I didn't do it this morning, but I will today. Because even the thumb's got some interesting bits on it. And again, I'm just kind of working my way around. It's not a perfect line. It's, you know, kind of what I would say sketchy, where I'm just joining the lines up a little bit. But I'm not worrying too much about this. I just want to get the, do want to get the bayonet bit at the bottom in. And we're just following, you know, following these little bits round and see how they kick out at the side. That's quite interesting in itself, isn't it? And then another one. And they're kind of making their way. If you're not sure, look, quite straight actually, edges, although it looks like it's getting thinner. It's because this thumb's covering it there. It's actually only going in a little bit. And then we've got this little bit at the bottom there as well. So we're just kind of getting the bits into place, really. And then we've got lots we can do to change this as well, you know, add bits on and things like that. So when you feel you know, you where you want to be with it. Then if you want to pop a few more definite lines in, you can, because we do get this shadow, don't we, around this side anyway, which that helps. I'm just going to widen mine slightly. I mean, you can do the whole thing in charcoal if you want to. Makes it, it's darker, and you have to just alter the pressure that you're putting it on with the charcoal, or the shape of the charcoal stick, just to get the different shading in. This kicks out a little bit. You see, some of the things we'll change it just with the shapes we put in. And there's a couple of fingers over this side. Put one in. And another one. Adds another finger, isn't it? And then just yeah, it's just like bending the finger there, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, we're just enjoying getting those little bits in. And again, as I said, if it doesn't matter at all, if it's not exactly accurate, because there's lots of opportunities, even in the session, to just go in and try a few more things. So I'm just going to pop in a bit of the thumb. Now mine cuts off there actually when I'm looking there. It stops. I'm just going to bring that across, and I've made my bit doesn't come down that far. Right, so I've got a fair few things in, then there's all of this inside. So I might just kind of try and get a few of the details before I start to go in and look at the other colours and stuff that's in there. But a lot of this will start to transform once we start to take things away from it as opposed to add. This has obviously got the darker, it's got this background coming through, so we can do that. If you're doing a light one, you might, do it in reverse, or you can do it like this as well to help you see it. It doesn't really matter. So once we start looking inside, there's so many interesting things going on in there with the colours. And that's when things will, we might start to, let me just come up a bit, you see, I've just realised. Again, it's fine, because again, it's an exercise in observation as well. I've got this coming up here into the middle now. It's like anything as well. So a topic that you might not have covered before is going to take you a while to kind of get used to it, whereas a topic that you've covered, several times before will it will, that will be much easier because you'll have that memory muscle there already. And I have to say, I don't think that light bulbs are the things that we normally, we're normally used to doing. So this will take a little bit. So because we've got a little bit coming up here, a string that's very light. And again, I'll change that in a bit. And I know mine's my bayonet's a bit too long there. It needs to be a bit more squat, but I'm not going to change it. I'm leaving it there just to show it's fine. I'm not going to worry if it's not entirely accurate the first time I'm doing it. And then we've got these bits of area in here as well. So obviously there's all sorts of other things going on. Once we start to look, there's all this going on here. So I am going to just start to deepen some of the dark areas on here just to help. So underneath where we get the lips and lip and things like that, of the shadow that's cast underneath on the bayonet there. So it's underneath the lip of those the screw cap, like that's kind of hidden under there. It's coming across, isn't it, as well? So we've got the ones going under, and then we've got these coming across. So when you actually start to look at that, it's fascinating that we've got the ones underneath, but we've also got some different shadows coming on there. And we've got to work out how dark are they? You know, which are the darkest ones? Do we need to make anything darker, for example? And we just got to work that out as we go. We can put those in. But the reason I'm going in with the dark ones is that it just helps us to see as a comparison where the lightest ones are. Sorry, yeah, where the darkest ones are. If we're not sure how dark something is, we come back to it and look. So we're just kind of just getting some shadow in there. Just starting to do that. There's still work to do on that, on the bottom of it. I'm going to definitely though get this in with the very, because this is very dark at the bottom, so that's quite helpful as well for me to see, you know, what do I compare any of the other dark colours to. There we go. And again, I'm not worried about the perfection of it. I just want to get it into place just to see. So the beauty of this now is we've got a few bits and pieces, and I'll come back to the fingers and everything as well. But what I want to do now is kind of get some of these really light ones in. And I'm going to look at the ones on the outside. So this is where we go in, we're using our rubber to create some of those light areas. Now I'm going to give a bit of pressure. I'm going to give a fairly even swoop on the very light ones. So you can see already what's happening there. Now sometimes you might need to go in and do it again with a nice clean swoop over. It's just so we're not rubbing it backwards and forwards on the paper, because it'll just move it in. And then I'm going to do the same on the inside. And then I'm going to make it a bit wider, so I could see if I need to drag it that way. So I'm just dragging that rubber in. So it's like a tool on its own. It's so cool, isn't it, when you just think, oh wow. And then, you know, we're looking elsewhere where the other ones that are fairly bright on. So I'm going to look at this side. They may not be quite as bright, but they're fairly bright. So these are the ones on the other side, aren't they? So I'm going to follow that down. There's three. There's one right on the edge, so I'm going to just put that in a bit more lightly. And you can go down to a thinner rub, by the way, as well. That's the other thing you can do. Yeah, there's that kind that you've got on the bottom of a pencil. Another one here. And what I might do is just kind of use the edge of the pencil just to make that edge line a little bit more definite. There. See, so that's coming around. We can even put some of these back in as well, you know, with some of the darker colours. And then there's another one there. Quite handy. Oops, I've gone quite far out with that one. Quite big, so let's try this other one. And this is what I was saying, you know, experimenting with the different erasers is really quite useful. I want to keep that line in between because the contrast is really important with pencil drawings, that we keep, you know, some of those darks in. So what I'll probably do is go back in and just put some of those darker lines back in. So that comes all the way under and it flicks under like that, and that kind of inwards there. But again, I'm just making it nice and straight across there so that it's quite nice. So you can see perhaps the difference you might get if you've got a putty rubber, which is more malleable. So I am going to go in whilst I'm thinking of it and put that shadow back between here so that there is a clear contrast between those reflections. It all helps us to see it now. And the same again there, if you haven't got a definite line, you can put one back in there as well. I mean, you don't have to. And again, you can even like kind of, do a trick of the eye as well by, making your tops a bit neater as well and popping a little bit of dark in there. And then we're looking again, all of the other bits on the bulb as well, where we might have some light areas that you might want to take out. So where is the other little pencil? So in here, again, because we're working reverse, we have got some light areas again on the top here, and it's working out how hard do we want to press? Do we just want a really small, just a very like a little bit taken out, just to give a suggestion that we know it's not quite as bright up there, but it's coming out. As long as we can kind of clear these rubbers off every so often, and so we're not kind of getting it stuck on there. That's great. But again, you can just take off, we can just take off patches nice and lightly. So it's not quite as much pressure. But again, it gives us an idea that, there is, so I'm looking there. And when you start to look, there's quite a lot of little areas that are lighter within that light bulb. And again, you can make them more angular if you want to, going with a, make the edges on them. Go, if you go in more tentatively, then you can adjust it. And there's a big one down here. But it's just really transformational. And I'm going to keep going with those lighter areas for now. There's another bright one down there, so I'm going to go in with the edge of this pencil. Again, see, I've got more shape in there. And then there's even these little bits in the middle, but I might actually just put a little bit more detail in the darks in there before I start rubbing that out. But then again here, we've got this right on the edge there. We can start taking it out, and it's just a really, really lovely way of doing it. So I'm going to take a pause there so that you can have a little look at what you're doing and come back and finish those off in a mo. So in between, just keep rubbing off those rubbers, cleaning them off. And also you might be developing a favourite rubber as well for doing these, one that you just like to hold the shape of, because a lot of that's personal choice. It's not to do with, it's to do with grip and like what we grip, find it easy to grip and things like that can make a big difference to us. So I'm just going to go back in over that line. There. Then obviously that's going to get too big further on, which is why why you can, if you want to switch. But even these lines here that have got, some of that's lighter in the middle, you can even do that. Go in and just make the bit that's highlighted brighter. All interesting. Just keep looking. You get a few things across the bottom, don't you, as well, which are interesting. I'm going in with this really fine one now. Just altering the pressure a little bit so it's not too. So yeah, we can really kind of start to pick out any little bits that we can see in there, little reflections that are on there from the room as well that this is in. And we can also put things back with our different pencils. So like here, there's a little line in there. I'm just going to put that back nice and lightly. You can experiment with different backgrounds as well. There's nothing that you can't do. Even the little light ones along the bottom, we're just looking all the time at these little bits that we can see. I think observation is definitely a journey that we go on that's really exciting. Just get more honed in when we're doing these close-up still life things. Little bits, these more intricate bits and everything. Just keep going. I mean, there's all these bits in the middle as well to think about, which are fascinating, aren't they? So take out some of that. And if you do that and there's not kind of enough of a distinction around it, then all we have to do again is think about the bees and things that we've got, and then just pop it a little bit back. Pop the shape a bit around it or whatever. That's probably a little bit bigger. Let me do a comment. Really interesting, isn't it? All these different shapes that we've got in here. Keep observing them. The door open in my studio 'cause it's so warm today, and it just the bird song's just amazing. Sometimes when you're creating away, it's just lovely to hear it in the background, especially because we've not heard it, have we, for so long. It's a bit wonderful. So yeah, just keep taking out and putting back in where you think you need to do that. And also, of course, it's about your representation too. We're always remembering that it's not just about, getting those details in, it's how, it's like getting your artist hand in there. So it's about your sketch style, or, what feels a really good style to you, what's coming naturally. Do you like to blend it? Do you like it smooth? All of these questions are to think about, which is really important. There's always a really thin one, like when you start to really look in, there's a really kind of thin wire going up there. Between. Whether you can get that fine enough. It may well be, you've got to kind of put some of the shading back in. Yes, it can go in like, darken some areas. And again, this is to do with sketch style and the way you see things as well. I'm going to go put in some of these darker lines now between, for shadows. Mid-tones, popping back in a bit. And then if you do decide to put anything like the fingers on or anything, it's just thinking, how are we going to represent that? Looking at the shadows between and the lightness. So if it's underneath the thumb, it tends to be darker. The shadow between that there, but it's quite light, isn't it, down that side? Like that. How we represent that. Put the details on the form itself. Maybe that you want to use a bit more of your charcoal to go even darker, or even, you just getting some of that shading on there with a pencil. You can bring in, things like cross hatching, where I'll do it on this side because I'm not going to use it, but you can, where you've got a series of lines going one way and a series of lines going another way, and it creates this. I'll do it a bit bigger so you can see. We can go small with it though. Cross hatching can be big or small. where you've just got like, it creates this different kind of movement in things, or dots or lines, all very enjoyable nonetheless. So again, we're just like comparing with the finger, because we don't know, you know, how light is it? What's the lightest? What are the medium tones you want to think pop in? Do you want to put anything a bit darker in? Is there any kind of linear areas that you want to add? It's all to think about. And then we've obviously, even with the thumb, you know, where do we want to take out from? Again, it's like just going in and do you take out just a small amount? Is it a light highlight, or is it, you know, where you get the really light bits on there? We're just kind of approaching that in the same way, really, that we've done the light bulb. Mm. Yeah, I mean, you can just kind of try loads of these and then go back in and have another look. Is there anything you've missed, you want to put in or take out? Let's take out a little bit more top here. So yeah, we're just building this our knowledge up bit by bit. Where the shadows fall, you know, it definitely um it definitely does help, you know, get a picture. So here, the edge of this, I'm going to make nice and dark where it goes onto the fingers, because it's very dark between there. Just working through a little process, aren't we? Of just experimenting and trying all of these and all of these. Just again taking these bits away. And we can just, when we get to near the end of something, we just compare and, compare, where are the lightest areas on everything? How do I know? Well, I can look at the other lightest areas and think, how does that compare? Is it a bit darker or a bit lighter? And just work our way through that like that, really. And then try again, try again with a different shape or a different bulb or the same thing again with different materials. It's all really good fun when we're thinking about these ways of sketching and yeah, to think about it, flip it on its head and remove the light. Well, not remove the light, but yes. So this is a tool now, not to correct, but to place the highlights. So yeah, really good. And I'm just going to take a pause there. And there we go. So that was my final pause. So I hope you really enjoyed that. I thought I'd actually say hello by face today because I'm in the studio. It's nice and sunny and all the birds are singing outside. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's been a really, really fun topic to do. And I'll see you again soon, hopefully. Well, I will. All right then. Bye.